In the eerie stillness of a desolate night, a crackling voice pierced the silence through the police radio. A fellow officer reported a disturbance in the abandoned outskirts of town. Urgency gripped me as I raced toward the location, my patrol car slicing through the darkened streets. The moon hung low, casting elongated shadows that danced along the desolate road. The air was thick with an unsettling stillness as I approached the coordinates relayed through the radio. A flickering street lamp illuminated a scene that sent shivers down my spine. Another patrol car, its doors ajar, sitting ominously by the side of the road. "Officer, everything okay?" I radioed, the response a haunting static that echoed through the quiet night. A sense of foreboding settled over me as I cautiously approached the abandoned patrol car. My footsteps echoed through the emptiness, each one a reminder of the silence that enveloped the scene. As I peered inside the vacant vehicle, the air seemed charged with an otherworldly energy. The interior was in disarray, a fingerprint of an unsettling departure. Who was here? I muttered to myself, a question that hung in the air unanswered. A sudden gust of wind whispered through the desolation, extinguishing the nearby street lamp. Darkness enveloped the scene, leaving only the dim glow of the patrol car's interior lights. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end as an unseen force seemed to take hold of the vehicle. The radio crackled to life, emitting a distorted version of my colleague's voice. "You shouldn't have come," it warned, a voice that seemed to defy explanation. Confusion and fear gripped me as I stumbled backward. The abandoned patrol car, now animated by an unseen force, roared to life without any logical explanation. My hand instinctively reached for my sidearm as the patrol car sped away into the inky darkness. "Wait!" I shouted, but my words were swallowed by the night. The vehicle vanished beyond the horizon, leaving behind an unsettling silence. Alone on the desolate road, I frantically radioed for backup, trying to make sense of the surreal encounter. The distorted voice on the radio fell silent, leaving me with the echoes of a supernatural warning. The abandoned patrol car remained, a silent witness to an inexplicable event that had defied the laws of the known. As backup arrived, I struggled to convey the surreal events that had unfolded. Skepticism and concern etched the faces of my colleagues, but the unspoken tension lingered in the air. In the days that followed, the incident became a source of whispers among the officers. Some dismissed it as a mechanical malfunction, a fluke of the old patrol car's systems. Others, however, spoke in shared belief of supernatural forces that had claimed the vehicle. From that night forward, the outskirts of town held an air of trepidation. Officers approached the abandoned streets with caution, eyeing the shadows. The incident became a cautionary tale, a reminder that the thin veil separating the mundane from the supernatural could, on rare occasions, be breached. As I patrolled the desolate streets, my eyes were drawn to every abandoned vehicle, each one carrying the weight of the inexplicable. The memory of the patrol car lingered in my mind, a chilling reminder that the night held mysteries that defied the understanding of even those sworn to protect and serve. The abandoned patrol car served as a spectral harbinger, a reminder that the line between the tangible and the unknown was thinner than we like to admit. The city park, bathed in the warm hues of the setting sun, was a haven for locals seeking solace from the urban hustle. On this particular evening, however, the tranquility was shattered by a distressed woman, her eyes filled with panic as she approached me, a police officer patrolling the area. "My backpack is gone. It was right here, and I just looked away for a moment to take a photo," she explained, her voice trembling with anxiety. Assuring her that we'd do our best to help, I began my inquiries. The park was filled with people, families enjoying picnics, kids playing, and couples strolling along the tree-lined paths. It seemed improbable that a theft could occur in such a crowded space without anyone noticing. As I questioned bystanders, a jogger approached, holding a backpack in his hands. The woman's eyes widened with a mix of relief and disbelief. "That's mine! How did you find it?" she exclaimed. The jogger, a middle-aged man with a friendly demeanor, explained that he had come across the backpack near a weathered bench. He described how it seemed out of place, and concerned for someone's belongings, he decided to pick it up. I thanked the jogger for his honesty, and the woman quickly inspected the contents inside her backpack. Everything seemed intact, and the crisis appeared to be averted. However, the jogger's story held a peculiar detail. He hadn't seen anyone around when he found the backpack. Intrigued by this oddity, I decided to review the park's security footage. The cameras were strategically placed, covering various angles of the area where the backpack was recovered. The jogger and the woman joined me as we huddled around the small monitor. The footage showed the park's bustling activity, families, friends, and couples enjoying the pleasant evening. Then, near the bench where the backpack was found, the timestamp indicated the moment when the woman claimed her backpack went missing. As we watched, the backpack seemed to materialize out of thin air. There was no one nearby, no suspicious figures lurking in the shadows. The jogger pointed at the screen, his expression mirroring the disbelief etched on our faces. The woman stared at the footage, a mix of confusion and awe clouding her features. "I don't understand. How is that possible?" she muttered, her fingers tracing the screen as if hoping to unlock the mystery. As a police officer trained to seek rational explanations, I was equally confused. The footage left no room for a logical resolution. The woman's backpack had seemingly materialized out of nowhere. We walked back to the bench, the woman eyeing the spot where her backpack had reappeared. The jogger scratched his head, admitting he'd never seen anything like it. As I filed the report, the woman thanked us for our efforts but couldn't shake the sense of unease that the mysterious incident had left behind. Days later, the story of the disappearing backpack lingered in my thoughts. The disappearing backpack remained an enigma, a reminder that even in the most ordinary corners of our lives, the extraordinary might manifest, leaving behind a trail of questions and a sense of wonder that defies the boundaries of the known. In the heart of a quiet neighborhood, nestled between time-worn houses and aged trees, I found myself responding to a call about a possible break-in at an old mansion. The night air hung heavy with stillness as I approached the dilapidated structure. The mansion loomed in the moonlit darkness, its windows like vacant eyes staring out into the night. A chill ran down my spine as I stepped onto the creaking porch, the ancient wood protesting each footfall. The front door, slightly ajar, seemed to beckon me into the abyss of the unknown. I cautiously entered the mansion, my flashlight cutting through the shadows that clung to the dilapidated walls. The air inside was thick with the musty scent of neglect, and the creaking floorboards beneath me seemed to echo. As I navigated the dimly lit corridors, a faint sound reached my ears, the soft, haunting echoes of footsteps. "Police! Identify yourself!" I called out, my voice breaking the silence. The footsteps continued, growing louder, seemingly leading me deeper into the mansion. The mansion seemed frozen in time, its rooms adorned with faded wallpaper and dust-covered furniture. The footsteps guided me through the eerie silence, each one a spectral whisper of a presence unseen. I pressed on, my senses heightened, as if the very walls held the secrets of the mansion's past. The footsteps led me to a forgotten room, its door slightly ajar. As I pushed it open, the room was bathed in an otherworldly glow. The ghostly figures materialized within, their movements frozen in a dance. They seemed oblivious to my presence, their attention focused. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling. The figures paid no attention, their ghostly forms twirling in a dance that transcended the boundaries of time. The room seemed to pulsate with a charged energy, and the footsteps faded into an eerie silence. I surveyed the room, captivated by the ethereal performance. The ghostly figures, clad in clothing from a different era, seemed to relive a celebration long past. The whispered voices reached my ears, revealing the tale of a joyous occasion that had become trapped in the tapestry of the mansion's history. When the spectral dance concluded, the room returned to stillness. The ghostly figures vanished, leaving me alone in the dimly lit chamber. The mansion, once a haven for the echoes of the past, now stood silent, as if the very walls had absorbed the energy of the spectral performance. As I left the mansion and stepped back into the moonlit night, the ghostly footsteps persisted in my memory. The neighborhood, with its quiet streets and aging houses, held a history waiting to be uncovered. The mansion, now a relic, became a place where the echoes of the past mingled with the present. In the days that followed, I delved into the history of the mansion. Local archives revealed a story of luxury and grand celebrations that had once filled its halls. The mansion, now abandoned and forgotten, seemed to carry the imprints of the joyous occasions that had unfolded within. From that night forward, the mansion held a spectral reputation. Residents of the neighborhood spoke in hushed tones about the ghostly footsteps that echoed through its corridors. The memory of the spectral dance became a whispered legend, and the mansion, a place of hidden history waiting to be explored. As I patrolled the quiet streets of the neighborhood, my gaze often lingered on the mansion's weathered facade. The ghostly footsteps, a reminder of the celebrations, resonated in my mind. In the hushed confines of the police department's evidence room, the artifacts of countless crimes stood as silent witnesses to humanity's darkest deeds. It was a room where the past lingered, each piece of evidence carrying the weight of untold stories. Late one night, I found myself alone in this repository of shadows, cataloging items with an unsettling sense of isolation. The dim overhead lights cast long shadows across the shelves, and the air seemed to thicken with an unspoken tension. As I documented the evidence, the room echoed with the soft hum of the ventilation system, a soundtrack to the solitude that enveloped me. Suddenly, the hum transformed into whispered voices, chilling fragments of conversation that seemed to emanate from the walls. I paused, my senses on high alert, as the voices grew more distinct. "You shouldn't be here," a whisper teased, the words sending a shiver down my spine. "Who's there?" I called out, the words carrying a mix of apprehension and authority. The room responded with an eerie silence, as if the walls held their breath. Dismissing the strange occurrence as a figment of my imagination, I returned to my task, my fingers gingerly tracing the contours of each artifact. As the whispers persisted, I noticed a faint movement in the shadows. Ghostly figures materialized among the evidence, their translucent forms navigating the aisles with an ethereal grace. I gasped, my heart pounding in my chest, as I beheld the remnants of those who had once inhabited the evidence of crimes. "Help us," a voice pleaded, its echo resonating through the room. The figures seemed to dance in slow motion, their movements mirroring the tragedies embedded in the artifacts. The whispered voices crescendoed into a haunting symphony, a chorus of the unjustly silenced. Overwhelmed by the spectral display, I fumbled for the light switch, desperate to dispel the shadows that seemed to come alive. The overhead lights flickered, casting an otherworldly glow on the ghostly figures. Their faces bore expressions frozen in time, a reflection of the pain etched into the evidence that surrounded them. As the room plunged into darkness, a cold gust of wind swept through, extinguishing the remaining lights. The whispers swirled around me, their words weaving tales of unsolved mysteries and unfinished narratives. "Unravel the truth," they urged, the voices a spectral plea for justice. In the blackness, I felt a presence near me, a gentle touch that sent a shiver down my spine. The room seemed to breathe with a life of its own, as if the very essence of the evidence had transcended the boundaries of the tangible. Terrified yet compelled, I reached out, my fingertips grazing the outline of a spectral hand. When the lights flickered back on, the evidence room stood silent and unchanged. The ghostly figures had vanished, leaving me alone with the artifacts that now seemed to carry the echoes of their stories. The whispered voices had subsided, leaving only a lingering sense of the supernatural in the air. As I stumbled out of the evidence room, the encounter haunted my thoughts. The artifacts, once inert objects of legal significance, now held a weight, their stories intertwined with the phantoms that had briefly come to life. The police department had revealed its haunted side, and the evidence room became a place where the boundary between the living and the dead blurred into an unsettling dance in the shadows. Rumors circulated among the officers, tales of the evidence room's secrets. Some dismissed it as an overactive imagination fueled by the isolation of late-night shifts. Others, however, spoke in hushed tones about the artifacts that seemed to carry the imprints of the restless dead. From that night forward, officers exchanged wary glances when assigned to catalog late at night, and the artifacts, once mundane pieces of a criminal puzzle, became conduits to a realm beyond our understanding. As I navigated the corridors, I couldn't shake the feeling that the evidence room, with its whispered voices and spectral apparitions, held secrets that defied the laws of the tangible. In the heart of the city, where towering skyscrapers cast long shadows over forgotten streets, I found myself called to a crime scene that defied explanation. The night was shrouded in a thick fog, an atmosphere that lent an eerie weight to the task at hand. As I approached the scene, the crimson glow of police lights cut through the mist, revealing the remnants of a murder. The crime scene, marked by yellow tape and the stern faces of my colleagues, seemed to pulsate with an otherworldly energy. The air hung heavy with the whispers of the past, a chorus of unsettling murmurs that seemed to resonate from the very ground beneath me. I tightened my grip on the flashlight, its beam cutting through the fog as I stepped into the unsettling scene. The victim lay sprawled on the pavement, the scene a canvas painted with the gruesome details of their body. My initial scan of the surroundings revealed no witnesses, no clues that would lead to the perpetrator. It was as if the crime itself had been committed in silence. As I meticulously documented the scene, the fog thickened, obscuring the surroundings. A subtle chill ran down my spine as the air seemed to crackle with a supernatural tension. It was then that I heard them, faint footsteps echoing through the mist, each step a ghostly whisper that beckoned me deeper into the mystery. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice cutting through the fog. The footsteps continued, growing louder, seemingly coming from all directions. I cautiously followed the ethereal sound, my flashlight illuminating the swirling mist as I navigated the dimly lit streets. The footsteps led me to an alley, its entrance barely visible through the fog. As I entered the narrow passage, the atmosphere became dense with an otherworldly presence. The footsteps persisted, each one a haunting echo of a presence unseen. The alley seemed to stretch endlessly, its walls closing in with an oppressive weight. My senses heightened as I approached a hidden courtyard, its boundaries marked by an ancient wrought iron gate. The footsteps reached a crescendo, and suddenly, the fog parted to reveal ghostly figures moving. The figures seemed oblivious to my presence. Their movements mirrored a tragedy long past, an unspoken narrative etched into the fabric of the night. The whispered voices reached my ears, revealing the tale of a love lost to the cruel hands of fate. "Help us find peace," one voice pleaded, the words a lament. The figures seemed to beckon me forward, their faces expressing a yearning for resolution. The courtyard, once a hidden corner of the city, now held the echoes of a tragedy waiting to be uncovered. As I approached the ghostly dancers, the courtyard seemed to pulsate with an ethereal glow. The fog enveloped the figures, their movements becoming more frenetic, as if the past sought release through this spectral performance. The whispered voices grew louder, revealing the details of the crime that had condemned these souls to an eternity of unrest. Desperation fueled my determination. I vowed to uncover the truth, to bring closure to the tormented spirits. The figures seemed to acknowledge my commitment, their dance slowing as the courtyard bathed in an otherworldly light. When the fog finally lifted, the courtyard stood silent and unchanged. The ghostly figures had vanished, leaving me alone in the aftermath of their spectral performance. The crime scene, once haunted by the echoes of the past, now felt eerily quiet. As I left the alley and returned to the crime scene, my colleagues regarded me with puzzled expressions. I struggled to convey the surreal encounter, the ghostly dance that had unfolded in the hidden courtyard. Skepticism and concern etched their faces, but the unspoken tension lingered in the air. In the days that followed, the courtyard became a focal point of my investigation. Research into the city's archives revealed a tragic love story that mirrored the spectral dance. The crime, a murder fueled by jealousy and betrayal, had gone unsolved, leaving the restless spirits trapped in a cycle of eternal torment. From that night forward, the crime scene held an eerie reputation. Officers exchanged wary glances as they patrolled the mist-laden streets, and the courtyard became a place of whispered stories among the city's residents. The memory of the ghostly dance lingered in my mind, a chilling reminder that the echoes of the past could intertwine with the present, and that some crimes carried consequences that transcended the boundaries of the tangible. As I patrolled the city's forgotten streets, I couldn't shake the feeling that the mist held secrets waiting to be unveiled. The crime scene, once a place marked by tragedy, now became a nexus of the supernatural, a reminder that the thin veil separating the living from the dead could blur into an unsettling dance in the shadows.